Today, we're diving into something that's, well, it's a little bit uncomfortable. We're talking about the hidden forces that secretly pilot our decisions, especially the ethical ones, often without us having a clue.
So let me just ask you something straight up. And I want you to be really honest with yourself for a second. Are you a good person? An ethical person?
I'm willing to bet your answer was, of course. And you're not alone. Survey after survey shows that most of us, the vast majority, believe we're more moral and more ethical than the average Joe. But wait a minute, we can't all be above average, right? That's just not how math works. And right there, that's the paradox we're going to unpack. See, this belief that we're all pretty great people, it actually creates a huge, dangerous blind spot in our thinking. So let's start cracking this good person myth and see what's really happening in our brains. There's actually a term for this in psychology. It's called the overconfidence bias. It's this funny little quirk in our brains that makes us way too sure of our own moral compass, especially when we're facing a tough situation for the first time. We just assume our good character will see us through. And this is where we see a major disconnect. We tell ourselves a story that goes something like this. I'm an honest person, so of course I'll do the honest thing. But here's the kicker. Decades of research show that's not really how it works. The real heavyweight champion influencing what we do isn't our internal character. It's the situation we're in, all those external factors and pressures swirling around us. And that's the real trap of being overconfident. It kind of makes us lazy. We stop scanning our environment for what's really going on. We put all our faith in this idea of our own goodness, and we completely miss the powerful, invisible currents of the situation we're swimming in. And that's exactly where things go wrong. Okay, so if our character isn't really in the driver's seat, then what is? Let's take a closer look at this hidden force, the incredible power of the situation. Situational influences. It's a fancy term for a simple idea. It's all the stuff happening around you. Things like the culture at your office, who else is in the room, or even just a few words somebody uses. This stuff quietly molds our choices way more than we'd ever like to admit. Here's a classic example you've probably heard of, the bystander effect. It shows that your chances of helping someone in an emergency go way down if other people are around. It has nothing to do with you being a bad person. The situation, just the presence of other people, literally changes your behavior. Or get this one. This study is absolutely brilliant. Researchers had people play the exact same game. When they called it the community game, people were super cooperative and fair. But when they called that very same game the Wall Street game, people got ruthless and competitive. The only thing that changed was a single cue from the situation. And this quote from the source material just sums it all up perfectly. This is not about bad apples. It's about how tough situations can push good people, people with good intentions, people like you, people like me, to do things that are, well, unethical. All right, so let's pull this out of the psych lab and get into the real world. Because we face these ethical traps every single day, especially at work. In a professional setting, there are a few situational pressures that are incredibly powerful. Of course, the chase for money and prestige is a huge one, no surprise there. But look how close loyalty is. That deep desire to protect our team or our boss can be a massive influence. And the real shocker, a super strict compliance culture can actually become its own kind of trap. So how do these things actually work on us? Well, they basically hijack our focus. They act like a magnet, pulling our attention away from big, long-term ideas like our own integrity and forcing us to fixate on the short-term win. You could almost picture it like this in your head, right? All the short-term stuff, the bonus, the promotion, not letting your team down, that stuff feels loud, urgent, and it's screaming for our attention. Meanwhile, those big abstract ideas like personal integrity or market fairness, they become quiet whispers in the background, and they are so easy to ignore. So this might all sound a little bleak, but it's not. The moment we know we're vulnerable, we can start to do something about it. And the solution starts with a really important mental shift. It's about moving from a mindset of compliance to one of conscience. Now here's that paradox I mentioned earlier. You'd think a company with a ton of rules would be super ethical, right? But what often happens is that a culture focused only on rules creates this check-the-box mentality. People stop thinking about what's right and start thinking only about what's allowed. And that intense focus on the rulebook leads us down a path where we start framing the entire problem the wrong way. It makes us ask the absolute worst question you can ask in an ethical dilemma, which is, what can I do? You see how that works? It's all about what you can get away with. How close to the line can I get without technically breaking a rule? When the question we really need to be asking, the much more powerful question, is this one: what should I do? That question isn't about the rule book. It's about your principles. It's about impact. And it's about integrity. It forces you to look up and see the bigger picture. So, what's the big takeaway here? The goal isn't to magically become some perfect human who's immune to all this stuff. That's a fantasy. The real goal is to become an aware person. Someone who can spot these situational traps from a mile away and consciously choose to ask the right question. And I'll just leave you with this final thought. The next time you see someone making a questionable choice, or maybe the next time you're facing one yourself, what are you going to look at first? The flaws you see in the person, or the powerful, invisible pressures of the situation they're in? Because that awareness, that really does change everything.